Hello, everyone. It's yesterday at 12 o'clock, and welcome here. After that really fun, I enjoyed making it, first video, I feel like I need a sort of introduction to my storytelling jazz. So let's keep this intro short, because there's a lot to talk about. Let's jump right in. As many of you know, I'm an aspiring TV writer showrunner. For those of you who don't know, a showrunner is the person who, quoting from dictionary website dictionary.com, has overall creative authority and management responsibility for a television program. So what that means is the person who's on top of the show's ladder. Most often the showrunner is the person who came up with the idea for the story. They usually participate as a writer and serve as an or the executive producer for the show, but that's all very technical. What's important right now is obviously to know that that's sort of where I want to end up, and what's important for the framework of my stories is to think of them as that sort of overarching, organized by season TV show, at least most of the time, and to know that my stories are mostly incomplete. There's the overall whole story, and then I have the individual stories inside that are the TV shows themselves. I will refer to both of these as my stories. That's not all there is. There's these little self-indulgent tidbits of lore that I add as branches to fill in the tree and make it more full and fun to climb. I don't know if that metaphor really makes any sense, but whatever. I talked about this in my Meet Me video, but I don't really have a set audience. I think I sped through this part in the Meet Me video, but I don't have a set audience, not yet at least. I know there's parts of pretty much all my stories that are family friendly, 13 plus, 16 plus, and 18 plus. Some of those are arbitrary. Sorry, even in real things, some shows are 18 plus for having a lot of cursing in them, but I started cursing at much younger, and I grew up in an environment where that was just a chill, normal thing, less of a big deal. But that's all to say there's something here for everyone, as I always say. I've always loved stories that are brightly colored and pretty while still dealing with heavy topics. Adventure Time does that pretty well, where it'll have its very kiddo vibe moment, and then a few minutes later someone will be having a deep-seated panic attack and trying to unalive their doppelganger. Those are my favorite stories. Put me on a well-made roller coaster, put me on an experience. But okay, let's actually get into it. Hold on, let me pull this up really fast. Okay, my biggest story that I've put the most time into is called Everrealm. EVER, ever, the word ever, forever, -REALM, realm. That name isn't exactly finalized, I guess. I think it's cool and pretty unique. At least I haven't encountered anything else too similar to it so far, but that's not to say Everrealm is all, the only option. I don't know. I'm still going back and forth on that. I came up with that name a few years ago, and it's I come back to it and go, is this good? But it's kind of sticking. It's kind of stuck, I guess. So, we'll see about that. But Everrealm is not the only story I have. I have a few different stories, and the best way to organize them is probably just Everrealm stories, which have one shared timeline and world, and not Everrealm stories. For my YouTube, I think I want to focus mostly on Everrealm. I think that's sort of the easiest. I don't want there to be a set standard that I will not talk about my other stories, just because I love them as much as I love the Everrealm ones. I just have less focus on them sometimes, or usually. I go through phases, but this isn't about the other stories, I guess. Okay, hold on. Okay, I just decided. I'm just going to talk about them, really fast. Okay. So, of all my other stories, maybe I'll draw this and put it on screen, but like think about like a pie chart where the stories that are the most important to me are the big ones, and then there are a bunch of little ones. So, and this is other stories, this is not ever wrong. Okay. Number one, biggest piece of the pie chart is World Travelers. That name is even less finalized. World Travelers is about some kids who use these little things to travel to different dimensions, and it's very Rick and Morty, but for kids, Star vs. the Forces of Evil type vibe. And then number two, which is, honestly, this might be number one. Number two, it's just a fraction on the pie chart. It's just a fraction smaller than World Travelers, because I have less of the story fully figured out, but it's arguably more personal to me than World Travelers is. But either way, number two is called Grief. It's about these 5 ghosts who work for the Grim Reaper, and each of them represents a different stage of grief, and I love them so much. Okay. Number 3 is Batgirl Rogue, which number 3 is probably the story I'm least likely to make of these sort of bigger other ones. I mean, number Grief is pretty dark. I don't know if I'll ever actually be able to make it, but I'm going to make World Travelers into a show. I'm probably going to make some other ones. Anyway, Batgirl Rogue is my edgy DC live-action TV show concept about Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, like as in one of Batman's sidekicks. Okay, God. All right, number 4 is called Runes, or Paulus's story. It's about this one guy who crash lands on Earth and grows up here, sort of a Superman storyline, but he's gay and he falls in love, and then he finds these other people that represent the Greek words for love, or are named after the Greek words for love, and has like so much drama. But a lot of that story's really old, and I've taken a lot of the bits and pieces of it and used it for other things, so I would have to like rebuild Paulus's story, which is the other name for it. It's like Runes or Paulus's story. I would have to rebuild it if I were ever to make something out of it. So that's number 4. Number 5 is just the superhero one. I don't know if I can really expand on that one. It's just, what if superheroes, sort of like The Boys, if any of you have seen that show, where it's like superheroes aren't very morally 10 out of 10. And then number 6, which I call Cards, which actually I don't even know if Cards really counts, because it's sort of been put with World Travelers. It's really complicated, but anyway, the next one after Cards is Layla's story, which that is one I am almost definitely never going to actually make, but I love it, and it's part of my lore, like me as a person. My backstory is I wrote Layla's story. And then after Layla's story, there are a couple other ones, like Dust, or like, The Dust Settles, I think was the full short story's name, and like whatever, but those ones are so small that like they're too obscure to even mention, right? For the record, I don't expect people to remember any of these details. I don't even expect people in real life to remember any of these details. When I was writing with my sister, she didn't even know all these details about my own stories, like my personal ones. But so you don't have to worry about it. I know this is a lot, I'm sorry. Especially with the smaller ones, it's like really not a big deal. I love talking about this, so I do not mind repeating myself. The only characters that really come up often of these sort of smaller ones are the girl with the mask from World Travelers. She has a ponytail and a diamond-shaped mask. And Blue from Grief. Just know that I love them so much. Sometimes I'll talk about, or I'll draw Gavin from World Travelers too, but not very often. By the way, I also have a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I can't not include it here, but it's a completely separate vibe. It's not one of my other stories. It's not Everrealm. It's its own. It's Dungeons and Dragons, right? And there will definitely be videos and drawings coming out about it. So stay tuned. It's awesome and amazing, but I have to be more careful with it. It's it's a different situation. Okay, so back to the main course. We have Everrealm, and we're gonna keep with the pie chart vibe metaphor thing. So Everrealm is a world with multiple stories. It's a one big long timeline with a lot of facets all happening at once, but we are going to sort of narrow it down. The main pieces of Everrealm are Camp Everrealm, Realm Academy, and Everrealm PM, as in AM and PM. But I feel like I should set something up for real fast. So, once upon a time, blah blah blah, there's this really big planet, right? Picture it. It's crazy. On this world, there are a good few continents, but they're they don't have contact with each other, whatever. We're gonna focus on these few continents right sort of in the middle of this planet, okay? In this world, magic exists, and magic is just kind of a thing that's sort of in the air at all times. And depending on where you are, the magic in the air is slightly different. And depending on where you grow up and the type of magic in the air in the place that you grew up, you will get a different magic power based on that. For example, if you grew up somewhere that is fiery, probably around where I would call the Inferno realm, you would grow up to learn to cast fire magic and basically be a firebender from Avatar. If you grew up on the border between the Arctic realm and the mountain realm, you might have ice, water, and earth bending, It's just, and one's not more powerful than the other, you just have more variations. And there's a lot of variations of fire. It's just different depending on where you grow up, okay? And some of this is genetic, but that's a whole thing that we're not going to get into right now. Also, countries exist, obviously, and most countries' borders are at the edge of where the magic in the air changes between those specific powers. For example, the mountain realm and the Arctic realm are right next to each other. So as you walk from the middle of the mountains further north, slowly it gets colder, and also slowly the air will feel more and more different. And soon enough, you'll be in a place where you won't be able to feel any of the mountain magic in the air anymore, and it'll just be Arctic magic. And the border is usually the halfway point in that transition. And like I said, if you live somewhere near the border, there's a chance you'll get magic of the other realm or a combo, but yeah. The countries are referred to as realms because their magic is different. Going somewhere with a completely different magic is very dangerous, but that'll be explained later. No, I'll explain that now. So, because the magic in the air changes so much between which part of, like, the farther away you are from your home, your place of birth or your home, the more different the magic in the air is going to be, and therefore the more struggles either you will find in that new environment or the environment will find with you simply because of the magic inside of you. For example, if you have a lot of fire magic inside of you that you can use and harness and blah blah blah, then if you go somewhere on the opposite side of the world, say the Arctic realm, the realm will have problems because you will be too hot and the magic in the air will not react well. It'll melt, or it'll be too weak, or sometimes it's the other way around, where the magic in the air is more powerful, more like, not more powerful, but more, maybe it's a good way to phrase it as flavors, where it's like the magic in the air is bitter, and you aren't used to that, and you can't handle that, and you like start to struggle to breathe while you're there. It can be very dangerous it can just be very dangerous to travel too much. Or at least there have been accommodations made to sort of rectify that in the world, but this we're getting too much into the lore. We're just sort of trying to set up right now. Yeah, so travel is hard, blah blah blah. The world is separated into 4 sections. Okay, so think of it like a diamond, and then a diamond with 4 diamonds inside, like the Steven Universe thing. So we've got light section to the east, the northern nature, dark to the west, and the southern nature. Naturally, there's been a lot of conflict between these sections, especially between the light and dark areas. But in the light realm, or in the light area, we've got realms like the Dawn realm or the Solar realm, and in the northern nature, we've got places like Arctic and mountains. In the southern nature, we have other naturey things that are less sort of what you would immediately think of. Like fire is nature, but it's not with all the like, we like flowers and it's in the south. And the dark realms have realms like shadow, storm, mirror realm, that sort of vibe. It's pretty simple, hopefully. All the oceans are also technically realms, with different versions of mermaids or water-dwelling humans within, because I love that sort of stuff. Just know that the oceans are inhabited for the most part. There's also this little place in the middle that is both too important and too complicated to really explain right now, so we'll leave that for another time. Characters important to this world. Okay, so as a whole, number 1, we've got Heisei, the Dusk Queen. Ooh, she's so fun. She lives for such a long time. I love her. She does so much stuff. We've got Selena, who's from the place in the middle. Koa, who does a bunch of cool stuff. And we've got Dragon, who... yeah. I'm currently drawing a girl named Danny, who is she's the main character of Camp Everrealm, and she is so cute, and I love her to death. This is sort of the style I want Camp Everrealm to sort of be in. That's why the shading isn't as complicated. The next one I post, I think, will be sort of more complicated shading-wise. And I kind of gave up on the tree, but I really like this drawing. It shows off how she wants to explore, and I've wanted to draw something like this for a long time. And I was going to talk a little bit more about her and Camp Everrealm, but I feel like I have talked enough for one video, so we'll get to that later. Hopefully you understood some of my long rambling. If you have questions, I will always love to answer them. Though, I will say, I do love a good mystery, or like vague intrigue, sort of, ooh, what does that mean type answer. Especially for the stories I'm certain I want to make into TV shows. So, I think that's all part of the fun. So you still ask your questions. We'll just see where the answers come. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day. I'm already having so much fun with this, and I just did the very, very basics of my story. So, we're gonna expect more of this stuff. Also, I'm planning on doing some video, because the Five Nights at Freddy's movie came out recently, and I want an excuse to talk about that stuff. But that's neither here nor there. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day, and I hope you always remember to drink your water. Bye.